it would be wise for Ohio State to pursue a quarterback in the transfer portal.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Tuesday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. During today's show, we got to hear him during Michigan Week. We can hear him here once again. It's my guy, Jeff Hunt, of the Jeff Needs Sports Podcast of the Off the Ball Network. And Jeff, the portal opens up next week. Next Monday, the transfer portal opens. And when I think about the portal opening up, I think about positions Ohio State should target, should pursue heavily to go out there and make sure you get your guy. Get the guy that's going to make your team better at that position going into 2025. And QB1 is still on the table. Will Howard's going to the NFL. Not sure where he'll get drafted, but I believe he'll get drafted, which to me, when I see Will Howard leaving, I haven't seen enough from the guys behind him to think, hey, you've shown me enough to make sure I know you're worthy of being QB1 next year. They haven't played that much, so I don't have enough film to say you're QB1 or you're QB1, which is why, Jeff, to me, Ohio State must heavily pursue a quarterback in the portal and make sure the quarterback is a guy that everybody believes can get it done in the game. That's it. We haven't won the game since 2019, but also if you're able to win the game, you're also a guy that you believe can lead you to win the conference and lead you to win the Natty. That's what I'm looking for right now. And Ohio State and Ryan Day heavily need to pursue a quarterback in the portal starting next week.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I would say this for any team that's a national, title contender. And here is why. And I'll bring up the pioneer of you don't know what you're going to get with an incoming quarterback, Quinn Ewers. When Quinn Ewers went to Ohio State, it was like, okay, we've got this guy for 3 to 4 years. He's definitely NFL talent. All the things that he's become, by the way. But guess what? A year in, he's gone. We know that probably next Monday, I think we all assume that Nolan might be gone. Mm-hmm. It's like the thing about when you're trusting an incoming, a high school recruit, that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with going after those guys, but you don't know what you have until they're on the team. And then if they leave early, well, now you're left high and dry without a starter. If you go get somebody in the portal, just like they did with Howard this year, and he competed with the young guys all summer, we all knew it was going to be Howard's job, but I mean, it was what it was. We're told it was a competition, and he won it. If you get the best player you can in a portal, because every year is important. And do I feel bad for the young guys that want to stay on the team and play? Yeah, they are definitely sacrificed in the current college football system that we have. Kyle McCord got sacrificed last year from a chance, to go to the playoffs at Ohio State. As great as his year was at Syracuse, awesome, did a great job. He's not going to the playoffs. Like that's, and it's just because you just can't wait around. So I think every team that's a contender, you have to go out there and look. You never know when there's a kid that's not happy somewhere. And this kid might be on the bench. Like we look at it as like a starter coming over. Most Ohio State fans didn't watch or know Will Howard when he came in last year. Like there might be guys unhappy at a program that they're in the AAC or something like that you're like, man, this guy gets a shot at big time. He's going to be a monster. And that you have to look at that. It's silly if you were going to base today's college football, if you base everything on high school recruits and think that that's how it's going to translate, you are going to get left in the dust because somebody's going to up and leave you high and dry. So I totally agree. You look at everybody, field everybody. I mean, let's be honest, the money's out there. That's not going to be an issue for Ohio State. If there's a veteran that's like, I want a chance at winning a title, even if he's like, I'll compete with, Julian saying, for the spot, or Air Nolan or whoever it's going to be, then yeah, of course, bring him in. You got, that's no different than having anybody else on your roster filling a spot. Anybody that no coach in the country right now should feel safe being like, no, I'm going to go through the classic progression of things and hope that a quarterback develops in 5 years. Because guess what? If you let a quarterback develop at Ohio State, you're getting fired. That's just the bottom line in today's football.
You mentioned that thing about Quinn Ewers, and it made me think about Justin Fields. And then you mentioned the recruiting aspect, because when Justin Fields was at Georgia, I don't think many Ohio State fans watched him. He was backing up Jake Fromm, and I believe, was it Kirby Smart that was there at the time, went ahead and kept Jake Fromm in as QB1. Justin Fields went to the portal, came up to Ohio State, got a little homesick, but then quickly got ready to go with the Buckeyes. But Justin Fields was hyped up because of those recruiting rankings. And I'm not a person that falls in love with those recruiting rankings, because I think those can really mess up how you analyze a player, because you're working on a star or you're number 50 in the country. That doesn't mean anything to me. I care about what you do on the field. And even if there is a Justin Fields out there that's a backup somewhere else to a guy who's a starter that's going to be in school next year, where the coach is saying, you got a lot of playing time as a backup, but I want to ride with the guy who's ahead of you, that guy might be out there. And Ryan Day has to find him. Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, the coaches that are there, you got to go out there and find that guy. Because what we have seen lately, you recruited C.J. Stroud out of high school. Great find. You got Justin Fields out of the portal. Great find. You recruited Kyle McCord. I don't think Kyle McCord's a ridiculously horrible quarterback. He just wasn't right for the job. You went to the portal and got Will Howard. He couldn't get it done against Michigan. And so you've been able to find guys out of high school, find guys out of the portal. You hit on some, you miss on some. You got to hit on the next one. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You have to hit on the next one. Because, Jeff, I've said this for for basically all season. You like basketball. You know how it is in the NBA. In a contract year, you get guys playing out of their minds because they want that bag.
Yep.
But I've been saying Ryan Day this year needs to coach like it's a contract year for him. No, his contract's not up at the end of the year, but he 100% needs to coach like it's a contract year. View the portal the same way. Ryan Day must view the portal like his job depends on it. And I think if he keeps that mind, well, I can't say I hope if he keeps that mindset, that will help propel him to make the right move in the portal.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing about it too. Like, and again, like we talk about this with the quarterback position so much. Just like you said, there might be. Honestly, like I talked a lot about wanting Malik Murphy last year out of Texas. We all knew that he was not going to have a spot at Texas. We all thought he was a talented quarterback. He went to Duke, and was a starter and everything. But that's also a kid that we've talked about this with Will Howard. You just have to have good talent. And if you have a good mental makeup and you go to Ohio State, that is all increased by 20%, 30%. So it's like that. You're exactly right about that. Find a kid who's just like, I can't quite get in the starting spot. Maybe they're because we talked about this with Howard left Kansas State. Yes, because Kansas State didn't, what I want to say, this year wasn't as big a deal to Kansas State as it was Ohio State. Yeah. So they could afford to move on. And now next year it'll probably pay off for them. Ohio State they just don't have that opportunity anymore with the money that the boosters and everything are putting in and the pressure. Like if you tell Ohio State fans next year, like, hey, this is going to be a tough year, but the year after that's going to be great, they will not settle for it. So it's just a different situation to where I think you always go get a veteran. And who knows if there's a guy out there that, whatever, text Ryan Day and it's like, you know what, watch you guys all year. I'm ready to do what you need. I see what you need. I want the challenge. Like, give me a chance. I'm out here in, a Big 12 country. I'm going to be a starter, but we're going to win 7 games next year. Like, give me a shot to win a national championship. I promise. We don't know. We know that kid's out there. Exactly what you said. Like when Justin Fields was coming to Ohio State, I'm like, oh, this kid sounds good. I didn't know anything about Justin Fields. Right. I just knew people told me he was good. And then lo and behold, like how great did he become? So it's like, it's those, or you know what? When LSU got Joe Burrow, was that a big deal?
Man.
No, it wasn't a big deal. But boy, sure became one.
Yeah.
Became one real quick. And it did take a year and whatever. But I'm saying you always got to be looking. If it doesn't work out and the guys you have on the roster are awesome, roll with it. But you absolutely have to look. You don't have to worry about this whole thing I think we're past, like last year we did the whole thing about hurting Kyle McCord's feelings. You cannot do that in football anymore. Like I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. But also, these players want the bag. They want their chance to play. It is what it is. You cannot coach to not offend a player on your team and then sacrifice your team's victories in the way. So yeah, I can't. I'm very excited to see like what happens in the transfer portal this year, because now things are finally settled in and completely wide open across the country. It's going to be insane.
It's going to be insane, and the quarterback position is not the only spot that I think Ohio State needs to pursue in the portal. I'm going to dive into this conversation a little bit deeper and see if there are any more positions Ohio State needs to target when the portal opens next week. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Some of the great features that Game Time still has, they still provide the all-in pricing. You're still able to get a panoramic view from your seat. They still have the lowest price guarantee, and they also have the Game Time ticket coverage. All of it is geared to help you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. This episode is also brought to you by Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more. And the best service in Central Ohio. Now is the time to reserve a table so you can unwrap years of family fun on Christmas morning. Everything you need for in-home and even backyard entertainment is at Billiards Plus. They're family-owned and operated. And when you talk to the staff at Billiards Plus, you know you're talking to an expert who won't steer you wrong. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. Kenny, Sarah, and the whole staff will always go above and beyond to give you the best customer service in the industry. Billiards Plus. Visit their showroom on Dublin Center Drive in Dublin. And Jeff, when I think about the transfer portal, this is one of those avenues that Ohio State must use every single year. Now, there may be guys that stay on the team, and you may have a guy that started this year at right guard or at left guard. You got some guys that are starters, but you're not really sure if they're the guy next year. You're not really sure if they're going to develop to be a surefire starter. And if you're a 2-year starter at Ohio State, you should be an NFL draft pick. That's what I think. Like, if you're a 2-year starter on the NFL, on the offensive line, you should be an NFL draft pick. And I say offensive line because, Jeff, if there's one other position Ohio State must pursue in the portal, I didn't prompt you this one on purpose. I want to just kind of startle you with it. Bro, it has to be the offensive line. Because what we got for the offensive line this year is good at times based off the circumstances, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough at all.
And look how great it was. What a decision, and by Seth to come there, and how great he played. A tragic injury, not tragic as far as his life, but like just a devastating injury at the end of the season, and we lost him. And I'm hearing most recent story I heard is that it was an accident. It sounds like okay. That's what I heard. It was just a home accident. Regardless, but what a great decision that held that line together. I mean, I don't think we beat Penn State without him. No. I don't think we're close. I don't think we eke out a couple of those games without a centerpiece like that. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that was really I thought Judkins was going to be the maybe the most important out of the portal. Of course, it's Caleb Downs. Of course, it's McLaughlin. It's the centerpiece. What did we say when we talked early in the season? Mm-hmm. Build up the middle. And what did they do? They went into the portal and got two absolute maniacs, to lock up the middle on each side of the ball. And that has been the difference in this Ohio State season as far as filling the gaps. And, we've talked about it year after year, some great spots. Hey, if you're a linebacker and you want to wreak some havoc, and a defense that I think is kind of settled into a good defense, all right, come to Ohio State. I mean, you're going to get a put up sports. If you're a defensive back, like, you're going to be on TV every weekend, people's going to care about you. Igmanosin, I still think, was a great get out of the portal. His stock has went up and down this year, but I personally like him. I like how he fights, and things like that. Downs, we don't need to say anything more about Downs. I mean, that's just a gift. But yeah, absolutely every position. And again, it's about, I think you can start filtering out now, like, Downs really worked out. Clearly wants to be there. Judkins really felt like he is part of the team. Like, he didn't feel like everybody told me he was gonna feel like a mercenary. He quit. No, I think he's been great. I think he gave it his all. Like I think the offensive line let him down mostly because of injuries and play calling, whatever. But it wasn't Judkins not doing his part.
Right.
So it's just through and through. Really, the portal, Ohio State kind of nailed it last year, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody was like, wow, I don't know what they saw in that dude. They were all upgrades. So it's been awesome. But we're also losing, most of them. So yeah, you got to let Downs, call his buddies and be like, man, you're gonna love it here. Come play beside me. And that is really how this is going to work. And it really is that simple. And I know the old school thinking is, this team lost to Michigan. They're just okay. They're not, they're not Alabama, Georgia, whatever. But the kids don't see it that way. They see where they're going to go. They see the accommodations. They see let's be honest, they see the money that they can get. Like there's a lot of decisions to go into this that like, I know the outsiders will be like, why go to Ohio State? You have to know me and know what it's like in that community. Like it's a good job to play football for the Ohio State Buckeyes. So yeah, you're right. I think you can hand pick the portal. And if that's one thing, as we talk about Ryan Day coming up, if he did anything right this year, it was filling huge holes in his team with really, really, really quality players.
Let's continue with that Ryan Day conversation because Jeff and I yearly come on here, normally in December. It's been earlier and earlier in December just due to the nature of the sport. We kind of do an annual assessment of Ryan Day. And I know coming off the Michigan loss is going to sting a little bit. A lot of people want Ryan Day fired. Some say no, it was the injuries. That's why things didn't go right. Some say it was off with the play call. Like he's not calling the play, so give him a break. Whatever side of the fence you're on, we're here to just kind of have an honest conversation about Ryan Day, the head coach, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. And Jeff, that was ugly on Saturday.
Yeah.
It was not a good look. And I don't really think the worst look for me from Ryan Day was during the game. Trust me, losing sucks. Like, I'm not excusing the loss. Afterwards, after the fight was kind of settling down, there was a video of Ryan Day on Fox, and they kind of panned over, and he looked around and said, "What happened?" Now, I'm assuming he's asking what happened with the fight.
Yeah.
But the look on his face
kind
of looked mentally checked out.
Yes.
And that's not a good look. I'm not calling for his job right now. I'm going to talk about that later on in the show about what I think Ohio State should do moving forward with Ryan Day. But right now, with the way Ryan Day is talking and his body language, things don't look good, man.
Yeah, that was definitely I think maybe his worst performance. And again, Jay, we keep talking about it. And as far as assessing, Ryan Day, it's another year to where all the boxes that we set up for Ryan Day to check this year, he barely checked them.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't beat Michigan. One of the biggest things that keeps the offensive game plan, and it just doesn't feel like he has control over, because everybody's like, oh, like you said, he's not the play caller. Yeah, but I remember when Urban Meyer used to just step in and say, stop doing whatever you're doing. He's a smart enough offensive guy to not sit there and beat his head against the wall like they did Saturday. His in-game coaching has not got better in 4 years. He really, really does not have I think he's too emotionally attached to the game. I know, everybody says like, oh, you need a guy that understands a rivalry. Sometimes you need a guy that understands it, but also just takes it as a football game. Urban was able to do both. But a lot of these great coaches around the country, they didn't all come from the school that they coach for, but they're just, if he would have coached that game like he coached, we'll say Indiana or some of the other, like even Nebraska, and remove the emotion from it, remove the pressure, he could have won that game, but he got caught up in it again, got caught up in the emotion. And he kind of just let it over. You could tell, just like you said, you could tell it overwhelmed him. And much like it did Will Howard. I think Will Howard, had help by getting smashed in the head early in the game.
That was a hit, man. That was a big
play. Yeah, that was one of those hits that really did change that game. It is what it is. I'm not saying that dirty or anything. They could have called it, could have not called it. I don't care about that. I'm saying the effect of that hit. But Day again in another year. Again, this is what I didn't want to give away before the show when we were talking. Mm-hmm. The moment that we knew that Ryan Day did not change this season, when Devin Brown came in, we were all like, well, that's it. Because again, it's another season that went by and not a backup quarterback was developed. There was no plan B. You have no, I mean, Devin only came in for a couple plays, but we all knew that was it, because we're all like, We know that he's not prepared to play because we haven't seen him play all year. There's no way he's ready for this moment. And it's another year to where he did not develop depth. We saw basically the same starters, there was no like third string running back outside of the the MAC season that they played. We didn't see that. The receivers are great, and they're really deep at receiver. So we're not really worried about that, but like the rotation, there were several games to where we complained about the rotation of defensive back and not giving younger guys, it's just, again, it was like, just go with what got you there and you'll accidentally win the game. He coaches most big games that he hopes he'll accidentally win it. And it just hasn't happened. When they got the ball back up 6 versus Oregon, no plan to end that game. All they got to do is go down and get any kind of points and they beat Oregon. They go, whatever, they punted. Let's put it that way. Just things like that. So like, once again, and here's the number one thing that bothers me about Day. And I want to be clear, like, I still want to see what happens in the playoffs. I'm not, I don't think he's right for this job. I'm not saying he couldn't become right. I keep saying that. I'm not saying he can't, but I've said it a million times on your show. Every time we do this, this is not the job that you learn on the job training. And that's what's killing him. But the number one thing is, again, I still don't believe, and this is how I judge coaches. If you take the two teams and you flip the head coaches, how would it be? And I think if you flip the head coaches Saturday, Sherman Moore's Ohio State Buckeyes would have beat Michigan by 35. Because of talent level and the skill set and everything that they had available. And Day doesn't do it again. He hasn't beat a team equal to him. Maybe, and we keep going back to this silly Clemson game, but I think we're just past that. I think we got to be past 2020 Clemson and still hanging a hat on that. Penn State, I don't think, was an equal team that day. If he beats them in the playoffs, I'll say it is. I will say, and that was a good victory. But still, it wasn't, it wasn't perfect. But so it's supposed to be like, I can beat you with yours and I can beat you with mine. And Ryan Day is not that coach. He still wins based on talent week in and week out. The upside, the one check mark he gets, he keeps that talent coming in as of right now.
We're going to continue this conversation because it's so good. We can't stop it. And it's going to be a little conversation comparing Urban Meyer and Ryan Day. It's coming up next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it's all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Simply visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. All the action goes down in 2 places on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So when you think about Urban Meyer at Ohio State, you think about fiery guy, sometimes a guy that sometimes piss you off a little bit to kind of motivate you. I believe he told Joshua Perry, first time he saw him, I would have never recruited you. Yep. The next thing you know, Joshua Perry's making big plays in the playoffs. So I'm thinking that's some really psychotic psychology that he's using, but it works. I'm not saying Ryan Day should use that, but Urban's guys are for the most part always ready to play.
Yep.
Big games, you don't really expect Urban's guys to not get the job done. Yeah, there was the occasional Urban Meyer letdown. Some of that was due to coaching. It wasn't due to the players being able to get the job done. And I say that because the only time Ryan Day has beat Michigan is what I call it was with Urban's guys. Those weren't his recruits. And what we got right now, I don't think these players are trash. These are NFL caliber guys. Mm-hmm. First, second, third round, fourth round guys. I don't think the players are the issue. It's his ability to properly use the players that are on the team that he's brought in. And that's a problem. That's a big, big problem. And you mentioned that 2020 win against Clemson. Jeff, that might be the only team that he's beat that's his caliber. That's his even. Michigan, 2019. I forget how good Michigan was, but that was a blowout anyway. beating Wisconsin in the Big Ten Championship 2019. That Wisconsin team was not on your level. Northwestern in 2020, they clearly weren't on your level. You almost lost the game to a team that you shouldn't have been. That game should have been close. But outside of that, like, you lost to Oregon twice. Twice. I don't understand why he talks like he gets it, but his actions show that he doesn't. Or maybe he truly mentally gets it, but there's an issue with trying to get the game plan out and get his guys ready to play. I don't understand it. You tell me you want to start fast. All of a sudden you start slow week after week after week. Same old song and dance, man. A lot of fans want Ryan Day up out of here. This isn't a job where you learn on the job, get the on-the-job training. He needs that. And this isn't a spot for that. And I personally think the pressure is getting to him.
Yeah, I definitely think it is. And I think it has the whole time. And I still think, and this is not, I mean, I hate to talk about someone's mindset when I've never met him, but what it feels like is he took this job because it was offered. He doesn't feel like I think he likes Ohio State. Mm-hmm. I think he would like them to win, but I think he also becomes a fan as to where, when you want to compare him to Urban came there with a mission. Mm-hmm. It was it was just a different mindset about the team, the toughness, and something you said to start, the conversation about Urban. This is the difference between the two. You mentioned how Urban came in and kind of disrespected Josh Perry, definitely on purpose. Urban did everything on purpose. Josh Perry became a starter, but also what else happened is Josh Perry lost his job late in 2014, the national title team, to younger, better players. But Josh Perry still kept doing a great job as basically if I remember, maybe the fourth linebacker or whatever. But still was there to do his job, as to where we talked about Day all season. He doesn't move off of players. It feels like he lets his coordinators run the show. It doesn't feel like his coordinators are playing the same game. Like it doesn't feel like the offense matches what the defense does, or vice versa. For years, it's like it does not feel like he has a stamp, a fingerprint on this team. It feels like he's kind of just kind of like for lack of a better term, like a CEO, but it's just not working.
Right.
And I think he's a smart guy. I think actually his earlier years, he was advancing a little better.
Yeah.
And then once he's like, well, I got to get some, I think he totally lets, my guess is that he doesn't really feel like he's in charge of Chip Kelly, because there's no way that they would have not had a better direction. Mm-hmm. There's no way after, when they came out of the turnover and ran the ball the first time and the fans started booing, if every fan in the stadium knows that was a mistake, you've got to stop that. And Urban was always able to switch gears at any moment and be like, okay, this isn't going to work. If something worked, okay, we're going to do this until it doesn't work anymore, whether it was at Florida, any of the schools he coached in. And, it's just, again, we just see it time and time out of day. Like, let's hope your athletes play really great. But then for Saturday, the mistake was to not use them. Like, I would rather lose by 50 and throw 8 deep balls to Jeremiah Smith. Like that, none of that'll ever make sense. And it feels like he's always in retrospect. Like after the game, I think he probably watches the tape and says, man, I did this. He doesn't, in the moment, he doesn't see the mistakes. He just keeps hoping for, it feels like the entire season for probably 2 years has been like, any minute Henderson's going to break off a 70-yard run and get me out of this. Isn't that what it felt like Saturday? Like, any minute one of these guys are just going to accidentally break and that's what Michigan actually wound up doing. They finally broke one run and won the game. And it just felt like Dave in the big games for years has been like, eventually somebody will break a tackle and win this game like Zeke Elliott used to do. And it didn't happen. And he never had a plan B.
So Jeff, I'm going to close this conversation out with a little question that I'm going to answer first, and then throw it over to you. I don't want to throw the question to you first. People want to know if Ryan Day should be let go. If the AD at Ohio State, Ross Bjork, should just say, Ryan, you're a good guy. I think Ryan Day's a genuinely good guy. Based off the things that he said and the things that he had said about just his life in general, he sounds like a genuinely good guy. But the question is, should Ryan Day be let go? Barring something crazy happening in the playoff, some crazy success, they don't have to win the national championship, but they get to the Final Four and they look competitive, he can keep his job. But I'm more in line with it's time to move on from Ryan Day. National championship might be the only way he keeps his job because that's one of the things you say that you need to do that haven't done yet. But I'm ready to go, man. Like, I'm ready to move on. And I don't really care about, who's going to take the job. I don't know, man. It's Ohio State. You got money. Like, if it's buyout of $37 million, them boosters got the bread. I'm not worried about, like, the buyout money. I'm not worried about that at all. I think it's time to move on. I genuinely think, and I was more emotional about this last year after the Cotton Bowl. I'm not going to be as emotional right now because I think we have seen what Ryan Day is as a coach. And I think it's time to move on to find somebody else to take over as head coach of Ohio State.
Yeah, I do. And I agree with what you said. I mean, there's been times, and sometimes I regret it, sometimes I don't, that I was just like, fire Ryan Day, blah, blah, blah. I really have grown to like the guy. I really do. It does not bother me that he's my coach as far as like the way he represents everything he says. I hate to say it's not a personal thing. I just don't know. Like there's times that you're not the guy for the job. And that doesn't mean that, like, honestly, Urban Meyer, I don't think is a great person, but that's the type of insane, person that you have to be to do the job. I wish that we lived in a world where Ryan Day could be our coach and we didn't mind finishing second every year, but it's not where we're at with Ohio State. It's not where the money's at. It's not where the boosters are at. And in all honesty, like Harbaugh said, years ago, like Ryan Day didn't have to fight to get this position. He didn't have to do what like Indiana's coach had to do. He didn't have to do what the Nick Sabans of the world had to do to get, to the level. And I think there's a world to where, like, if he does that, he could be the coach at Ohio State. But it's, I still will always believe that NFL mentality has leaked into the program, and NFL plays a game to where honestly you can lose 5 games a year. You don't have rivalry games. You don't have the passion. Your players are professionals. You don't have all the outside stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? It's more of a business. And I really think, and I think that's why Ryan Day's done pretty good this year because, college football is becoming that business.
It is.
But I think the youth development part of it, the handling players and things like that, I don't know. It doesn't feel like he wants to do it or is doing it. And so I think this team was pretty good because he had a bunch of, for college standards, grown-ups playing.
Yeah, sure did.
But I think especially when it's time to develop and it's time to the youth, I did beat it like a dead horse. We just haven't saw it, and I just don't think that's him. It just doesn't feel that way. I do think there's a world where Ryan Day is going to be a good football coach somewhere. And, the sad story is going to be like, oh, he didn't beat Michigan, but he won 2 Super Bowls, not as a head coach, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, let's put it this way. He does deserve to be a football coach and he's going to be a good one. I just don't know if this is going to happen. And no, I don't know who it's going to be, but trust me, there are handfuls of coaches out there who are like, let me have Ohio State's roster. I will destroy everybody in my path. And those guys honestly deserve a shot with one of the best rosters in football.
I appreciate my guy, Jeff Hunt, for coming on the show. He's the host of the Jeff Needs Sports Podcast over there at the Off the Ball Network. Those guys do great work. Him, Chris LeBron, Mo Murphy, Couch Coach, everybody over there does great work. And you can follow him on Twitter at jhunt006. Follow me on the same platform at jsteven07. Buckeye fans are out here on a Tuesday. Tomorrow starts the early national signing period. Trust me, we're going to be heavy recruiting tomorrow and on Thursday. You don't want to miss it.